everybody. Welcome back. This is Miss Faye, and this is my world. All right, today's topic is why so many young black men having all these babies? Why so many young black men having so many babies? Now, to get us started, I did pull a short video. Let's watch this video, see what this young man has to say, and then we're going to dive right into this topic. Why so many young black men are having all these babies? Here we go.
I got 7 kids and 7 baby mamas. Now, for the past few days, I've been going live telling my story, speaking my truth. And a lot of women having an issue calling me a deadbeat because I tell them I was being irresponsible, yet not wearing protection. But I always tell these women that I got pregnant that I do not want to be a father to these children. And I offer to pay for the abortion. Majority of times, they'll either take the abortion or they'll take a plan B. But only these 7 have kept these children. But the crazy thing about it is they want me to be responsible for some children I told them I did not want.
All right, we have a letter. So let's dive right into this letter and see what she says. I am a 35-year-old black woman, and I recently met a young black man that I really like. He's kind, he's charming, and on the surface, he seems like someone I could really connect with. But there is one major issue I can't ignore. He is 35 years old and already has 12 children. As much as I enjoy his company, I'm not trying to have baby number 13 in his story. I've worked too hard to build a stable future for myself, and I refuse to walk into a situation that could drain me emotionally, financially, and spiritually. And a situation like this certainly would. It would take over your whole life. You know, baby mama drama. And I'm sure, if he's got 12 children, that it's a lot of baby mamas mixed in there because one woman didn't have 12 kids with this 35-year-old man. Okay? All right. It makes me wonder, how are so many young black men ending up with so many children that they can't reasonably support? Why is this becoming so common, even when they clearly struggle to provide financially or be present emotionally for all those kids? It troubles me because it's not just a personal issue, it's a community pattern. Generational cycles, lack of guidance, limited emotional maturity, inconsistent father figures, and untreated trauma all play a role. And too often, nobody stops these men long enough to say, slow down. These are lives you're creating and responsibility you're stacking up. Meanwhile, women like me, women who are trying to move intentionally, build stability, and choose wisely, end up having to navigate through layers of dysfunction just to find a healthy partner. This is so true. Very true. I'm not judging, but I'm being realistic. I want love, but I also want peace, security, and a stable future. And I can't ignore the fact that getting involved with somebody who already has 12 children comes with responsibilities, complications that I'm not willing to carry. I don't blame you. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. In fact, I would pity him. 12 children. And the poor children, too. You got to pity them. Now, why is it becoming a trend? One reason I believe is because it's being publicized over the TV. You know, in movies, they depict these young men that's got all these kids. And then celebrities are doing it, and they are influencing these young men to have a lot of babies. But, they can afford to support their children, whether they're doing it or not. That's not the message. They're not presenting the message of support, just having babies. You see, and a lot of these young men are looking for models to pattern after, and they want to be successful like these people who are having all these babies. So they do what they see. They follow that pattern, but it's a pattern of destruction. Now, a lot of these young men, it's true that they have a lack of guidance. And even in the letter, you mentioned that they don't have a father figure. Well, let's look at this. Black men haven't had a father figure in a very long time. Unfortunately, there are some solid Black men out there. There really are. But they're hard to find. There's too many Black men who are dysfunctional. And unfortunately, a lot of these dysfunctional Black men are the ones who will volunteer to mentor other young Black men. Well, how can they mentor other young Black men when they grew up without a father? So where is that coming from? How do they know to mentor a young man to be an upstanding man when they didn't grow up with one? I think the whole screening process needs to be different, and not to just take on men just because they say, I want to volunteer. You have to be careful with that, ladies. And I've spoken about it before, sending your young boys off to these mentoring camps, because there are some men who volunteer just to be around young boys. They like young boys. They are attracted to young boys. So you got to be careful where you send your young boys off. But that's the thing that has bothered me. One of the things that has bothered me about these mentoring camps. A lot of these men came from dysfunctional homes, and they talk about it. The mother was a drunk or an addict and all this kind of stuff. And now they are going to be mentoring your son on what? What? When they grew up the way that they grew up, they need mentoring. Okay, so I think you need to question that. Who is mentoring your young son? And yeah, the Black home has been fractured since, well, as far as we know, since slavery. And it's funny because it's still a question whether we were already here. And I'm one of those that kind of attest to that we never went to no Africa. We never came from no Africa. We were already here. We don't even look like them. We don't talk like them. We are our own tribe, that was dismantled and all of that. This is just, it's just my belief, you know. But it has affected young Black men. All of that because they're still trying to find their place in society. And I believe, other than the fact they don't have a father figure, a real father figure to teach them a better way of life, I believe that a lot of them may have these kids to make them feel like they're in control of their lives, because they're producing these kids that in their mind, they're going to have a little gang that loves them, that supports them, that's always going to be there for them. Well, that's delusional, because if you cannot support these children, what makes you think they're going to rally around you? But these are young Black men who, they're not thinking it through. you know they just feel like, I got these kids, and it gives them some kind of status in the community, the more kids that they can produce. And the women, they leave the women to handle it. It's the woman's job to support the kids. I'm out. I just make them. Well, women, that's why I'm always on you. I tell you, don't have sex with these guys. because some of these guys are out to produce children, and you could get caught out there unless you are protecting yourself. I always tell you, never uh, put your protection in the hands of another person. You protect yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, don't have sex, period. That's the ultimate protection. But young ladies need to know that these young men, many of them are out here to have a lot of babies. And I know even when I was young and coming through the pipeline, I had some men to whisper in my ear, I want you to have my baby. So if they're still doing this to young girls, and young girls who are naive, vulnerable, and need love, seeking love from a man, and he's acting like he loves her. Of course, he's, in the throes of passion. That's what he's doing. He's making her feel safe and secure. And then he whispers in her ear, I want you to have my baby. And then he makes one, well, bam, now she's got his baby. But she hasn't thought it through that that's going to be her baby. In her mind, now she, when she finds out that she's pregnant, she's happy because she's figuring that she's got a lifetime of him, you see. But then when she tells him and he lets her know, well, I'll do what I can, but I'm not marrying. I don't try to marry. Now he's going to be honest. I'm not trying to marry nobody, something like that. I'll do what I can. Well, now she feels kind of stuck. Now she's got to figure out her life with this baby. And unfortunately, a lot of the young girls are not thinking that far in advance. And unfortunately, their mothers started off the same way. A lot of these young girls who have babies, very young, as soon as they can have a baby, now they have one, their mothers did the same thing. It's a generational curse. So you got to watch out for that, ladies and young girls. Watch out. You don't want to carry the family curse about having these babies very young, because that energy alone will draw these young men to you who are trying to have a baby. And you'll just be in the line of women that have their babies. No, so you better watch out, because everything, remember, is spiritual. Okay? So, and everything that happens, I was going to say everything that happens for a reason, and it really does. But many times it's, and it is a lesson in it. But you don't want the harshest lesson, do you? So then you listen to caution, okay? And protect yourself from these young men. Now, this is not a stereotype. These young men that are having these babies, it's not about a stereotype that is just young black men. And it's happened to the black man because of his environment, economics, the culture, trauma, and his identity. Okay, so it's not just about just because he's black. It goes deeper than that. And many black men feel that their manhood has been stripped because they're constantly being pointed out as a problem, as a potential problem. That's how the black man a lot of time is viewed. And being that he feels stripped of his manhood. Now, having babies, maybe that reinforces his belief in himself. He can create life. He can make a baby. It makes him feel like he's important. So these young men, they have nothing else to grasp onto, and having babies, they feel like they have something. But they're not looking at it on the supporting end. They're not looking at, well, who's gonna, I gotta take care of this baby. I gotta be there for that baby. No, that's not even in their frame of mind. They're thinking that the mother would take care of the baby. Now, what about men who claim it was an accident? in today's world, I don't believe it was an accident. You know, maybe you didn't make a wise decision. Maybe you didn't do enough research of how not to have a baby. Maybe you just trying to cross your fingers and maybe you just lazy and then your pull-out game was weak. It could be just something like that. But in any regard, men, stop getting these young girls pregnant knowing that you are not willing or not able to support a child. Stop impregnating these young women. And young women, protect yourself and stop allowing these young men to impregnate you. Because, the same reason that the men are having babies is the same reason that the women are having these babies. Because they want to feel empowered too. They want to feel wanted. They want something they can call their own. You see, it's the same energy attracting each other. They wanting the same things. They are attracting each other. People, that's why I'm always telling you, it's a spiritual thing. You can tell in what condition you are in by the energy that you are bringing into your life. The people around you. What's going on in your life. That's the kind of energy you are producing, ladies. So if you are feeling kind of desperate for love and attention, that kind of thing, you're feeling like, there's a void in your life if you don't have a man in it and all of that, and you wanna feel more confident, more whatever, but you're gonna need a man to do that. You are drawing that energy to you. So you'll draw in a man who needs a woman he needs a woman because it's going to make him feel more powerful. The same energy, people, you see? And when that baby is produced, it's the same energy. You got to watch out for what you focus on, what you think, and really what you say, because this changes your reality. And both young Black men need to realize that, and women need to realize that. Now, young Black men, they're not thinking way down the line, because you've heard these tales, and probably it's happened in your own family if you were one of the ones who are out here having a lot of babies. How are these babies going to feel when they grow up? And maybe you haven't spent enough time with them. You having siblings all over town. Maybe the baby mamas don't get along. So the siblings don't know each other, or they hate each other, or they hate you. That's even more confusion than having your kids and you all living in the same house. You're having a small amount of kids. You have enough issues with just having a few kids. But now you want to go out and have as many kids as you can produce. Well, that's fine if you can afford it. You understand, ladies? And many of you ladies who are having these babies, these guys are not supporting you. Do they pay your rent every month? Do they pay all your bills, make sure your lights on and all of that? If you need food, you got an allowance every week. Are they doing that? Well, why would you have his baby? What makes you think that once you have that baby, he's going to do it? Ladies, be smart. Be wise. Now, I hope that I've said something today that can help someone. And I really hope that you understand it. Now, those of you, I want to thank you so much for supporting this channel. And any of you have a question that you'd like for me to answer, my email address is in the description. And if you're looking for today's affirmation, meditation, and movement, there's a link also in the description. I want to thank you so much for your comments and your letters. And a very special thank you to those that leave a donation. I really appreciate all of you. I wish you all the very best, and I really hope to see you next time.